When I was in the hospital recovering, I thought my sister would care for my child. But instead I learned she was secretly trying to adopt him as her own. I cheated on my wife 3 months before our son was born. Not because she wasn't enough. Not because our marriage was failing. I cheated because I'm a selfish piece of who thought I deserved more excitement in my, and now I'm watching everything I ever cared about slip through my fingers like sand. It started with Ashley from my office. She was new 24, and had this laugh that made me feel like I was 25 again instead of 32 with a mortgage and a pregnant wife at home. Sarah was 7 months along then, swollen and tired and spending most evenings on the couch with her feet, complaining about her back. I should have been rubbing those feet. Instead, I was staying late at work, telling I was just being friendly when Ashley and I grabbed drinks after the quarterly meeting. Wife is so lucky. Ashley said that first night, her hand brushing mine as she reached for her. Having a husband who works so hard for his family. The irony tastes like bile now. I was working hard, alright. Working hard to justify why I deserved this attention, this validation, this escape from the reality that I was about to become a father, and it scared that out of me. Sarah never suspected. Why would she? I'd been the devoted husband for 4 years, the guy who brought her coffee in bed on Sundays, who assembled the crib with YouTube tutorials and only minimal cursing. I was supposed to be her rock. Instead, I was crumbling under the weight of my own selfishness. The affair lasted 6 weeks. 6 weeks of stolen moments, of deleting text messages, of lying about where I'd been. Ashley made me feel desired in a way that Sarah, exhausted from growing our child, couldn't, and I convinced I deserved to feel that way. I convinced it wasn't really cheating if we only slept together 3 times. I convinced of a lot of things that make me want to now. The last time was 2 weeks before Tommy was born. Ashley's apartment, her roommate out of town, making everything feel justified and romantic instead of sordid and wrong. I remember lying there afterward, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time feeling the full weight of what I'd done. But instead of ending it cleanly, instead of confessing and trying to save my marriage, I did what cowards do. I ghosted her, stopped returning her calls, avoided her at work, pretended it had never happened. Tommy came 2 weeks early. Sarah's water broke at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, and suddenly we were rushing to the hospital, her gripping my hand and trusting me completely to be her partner through the most important moment of our lives. I held her hair back when the contractions made her sick. I counted her breathing. I the umbilical cord with shaking hands and cried when they placed our son on her chest. Looking at him, this perfect tiny person we created, I thought maybe I could bury my guilt. Maybe I could be the father and husband they deserved, and the affair would just be a shameful secret I'd take to my grave. I should have known secrets like that don't stay buried. Ashley quit 2 months later. No notice, just didn't show one Monday. Shar said she'd moved back to her hometown. I felt relieved, like I dodged a bullet, like I could finally move on from the worst mistake of my. But guilt is a cancer. It started small, eating away at the edges of my happiness. Every time Sarah smiled at me, every time she thanked me for being such a good dad, every time Tommy looked at me with those trusting baby eyes, the guilt grew a little bigger. I started drinking more. Just after work became 3 beers, became half a bottle of whiskey some nights. Sarah noticed but attributed it to stress from the new baby, from work pressure, from normal new parent exhaustion. She was so understanding, so ready to give me the benefit of the doubt. It made everything worse. 6 months after Tommy was born, I had what I now realize was a complete mental breakdown disguised as a midlife crisis. I told Sarah I needed space to figure things out. I moved into a studio apartment across town, telling her it was temporary, that I just needed to clear my head. The truth was, I couldn't stand looking at her trusting face one more day. I couldn't stand pretending to be the man she thought she'd married. I couldn't stand the weight of my secret anymore. But I also couldn't bring to destroy her world by confessing. So I did the next best thing. I destroyed it anyway, just more slowly. I missed Tommy's first steps because I was at a bar. I missed his first word because I was wallowing in self-pity in my pathetic apartment. Sarah would send me videos, still hoping I'd come to my senses, still believing this was just a phase. Tommy misses his daddy, she'd text, along with pictures of our reaching for the camera. The videos stopped coming after 3 months. The text became less frequent. When I did see Tommy during my court-mandated visitation, he cried when I tried to hold him. He didn't remember me. My own son didn't remember me. Sarah filed for divorce on a Wednesday. I signed the papers on a Friday. Just like that, 8 years together reduced to legal documents and custody agreements. But the universe wasn't done with me yet. The car accident happened on a Saturday morning in March, exactly 1 year after Tommy was born. I was driving to my second visitation of the month, hungover and running late because I'd spent Friday night at a club, trying to numb the guilt with bourbon and empty conversation. The truck that me ran a red light going 50 in a 30 zone. They said I was lucky to survive. 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, traumatic brain injury, and a shattered pelvis. The doctor said I'd be in the hospital for at least 2 months, maybe 3. When I woke after the first surgery, groggy and confused, Sarah was there. Not because she still loved me, but because I was still Tommy's father, and she's a better person than I ever deserved. Sister is flying in from Portland, she said, not meeting my eyes. She'll help with Tommy while recover. My sister Emma, 5 years older, never married, works as a social worker. She'd always wanted kids but never found the right guy. She'd been heartbroken when Sarah and I separated, had begged me to try counseling for my family. I'd brushed her off like I brushed off everyone who tried to help me. Emma arrived the next day with her usual efficiency and barely contained disapproval. She hugged me carefully around the tubes and wires, but her face was cold. How could do this to them? She whispered when Sarah stepped out to get coffee. How could throw away everything good in? I wanted to tell her about Ashley, about the guilt that was eating me alive, about how I'd ruined everything by being weak and selfish. Instead, I just closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. For the first few weeks, the arrangement worked perfectly. Emma moved into the guest room at the house Sarah and I used to share. She helped with Tommy during the day, brought him to visit me twice a week, sent me pictures and videos to keep me connected to my son. Sarah seemed relieved to have the help, and Tommy took to Emma immediately. He's such a smart boy, Emma would tell me, bouncing him on her lap during visits. He's starting to put words together. Yesterday he pointed at my coffee and said, "Emma, drink." Clear as day. I should have been happy. My son was thriving, getting the attention and stability he deserved. Sarah was getting support during a difficult time. Emma was finally getting to experience the maternal relationship she'd always craved. Everyone was winning except me, lying in a hospital bed, tethered to machines and drowning in my own self-pity. But something started to feel off around week 5. Emma's visits became shorter. Tommy seemed less interested in me, more focused on getting back to on Em. The pictures and videos stopped coming as frequently. When I asked Em about it, she brushed me off. "He's just busy growing," she said. Kids that age change so fast. Sarah's visits became more infrequent too. When she did come, she seemed distracted, checking her phone constantly. I asked her about it during what turned out to be her last visit. "Emma's been so helpful," she said, not really answering my question. "I don't know what we would have done without her." Something in her tone made my run cold, but I couldn't put my finger on why. The truth started to come out in week 7, when my physical therapist Janet mentioned something in passing. "Sister seems really dedicated to little boy," she said, helping me work my legs. She was here yesterday talking to Dr. Martinez about recovery timeline. Seemed real concerned about how long be laid. "Emma was here yesterday?" I asked. She hadn't mentioned visiting the hospital. "Oh yes, her and that pretty blonde woman, ex-wife. They seemed to have a lot to discuss." That night I couldn't sleep. Something was wrong, I could feel it in my bones. When the nurse came to check my vitals at 2 a.m. I asked her if I could use the phone. Emma answered on the 4th ring, her voice thick with sleep. "Hello, it's me. Is Tommy okay?" "Of course he's okay. It's 2 in the morning, he's sleeping. We're all sleeping." "Boy." A pause. Too long. "Sarah and I and Tommy, we're all sleeping." Wire answering Sarah's phone. Another pause. I'm in the guest room." Called my cell, but I hadn't. I'd dialed the house number, the number I called 1,000 times during my marriage. The number that Sarah should have answered. "Emma, what's going on?" "Nothing's going on." Or being paranoid, the head injury. I hung. The next morning, I called a lawyer. The lawyer's name was David Chen, and he looked like he'd rather be anywhere else when I explained my situation from my hospital bed. My head was still fuzzy from the medications, my speech slurred from the brain injury, and I probably sounded like a paranoid addict spinning conspiracy theories. "Let me get this straight," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Think sister and ex-wife are trying to, what exactly?" "I think they're trying to take my son away from me permanently." He sighed. "Mr. Patterson are in the middle of a contentious divorce. I've been hospitalized for 2 months. Ex-wife has primary custody and sister is helping with childcare. This all sounds normal. But it wasn't normal, I could feel it. I want to investigate. Quietly find out what they've been to." He took the case, probably figuring it was easy money from a traumatic brain injury patient with paranoid delusions. I had been right. The first red flag came 3 days later. Chen called during my physical therapy session, his voice tight with something I couldn't identify. "I need to ask something, and I want to think carefully before answer. Have ever been diagnosed with any mental health conditions, addiction issues, history of violence?" "No." "Why?" "Because ex-wife filed a motion last week requesting sole legal custody of son. She's claiming her mentally unstable, potentially dangerous to the child. She has documentation." The room started spinning, and it wasn't from the head injury. "What kind of documentation?" "Police reports from 3 domestic disturbance calls to old address, medical records showing treatment for dependency, a psychological evaluation recommending against unsupervised visitation." "That's impossible. Sarah never called the police on me. I was never." "Calls were made by sister Emma Patterson. She claimed she witnessed being verbally to ex-wife and behavior toward the child." The world tilted. Everything I thought I knew became uncertain. "That's not, Emma wouldn't." "There's more. Sister has filed paperwork to become son's legal guardian, citing ongoing medical issues and unstable mental state. She has ex-wife's full support." I dropped the phone. When I called Chen back an hour later, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial. "There has to be a mistake. Emma loves me. She's trying to help. I'm looking at court documents Mr. Patterson filed 2 weeks ago. Sister's requesting full guardianship of Thomas Patterson, age 15 months, due to the father's incapacitation and inability to provide stable care." "What about Sarah? Why isn't she?" "That's the Ender Patterson filed a motion to relinquish her parental rights. She wants sister to adopt son." The room went black around the edges. "That can't be legal. Can't just give away someone's child while they're in the hospital." "Actually, under certain circumstances can. Especially if there's documented evidence of parental unfitness, mental instability, and abandonment of parental responsibilities." I spent that night staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together what had happened. How long had they been planning this? Had Sarah been in on it from the beginning? Or had Emma convinced her that I was dangerous? Had my sister manufactured evidence, or had she genuinely believed I was it to my own son? The answer came the next day, when Emma walked into my room with Tommy in her arms. "Hello, brother," she said, her voice eerily calm. The Tommy, now walking and babbling constantly, toddled over to my bed and reached his arms. "Data," he said clearly, and my heart broke into a million pieces. "That's Uncle Mike," Emma corrected gently, lifting him away from me. "Remember what we talked about?" "Emma, what is going on?" She sat down in the visitor's chair, settling Tommy on her lap with practiced ease. He snuggled against her like he'd been doing it his whole. "I'm saving him," she said simply. From me. I'm his father. Rare who abandoned his family. Or unstable, potentially violent, and completely incapable of providing the kind of Tommy deserves. The police reports, aren't they? Made it all point?" She looked at me with something that might have been pity. "I didn't have to make anything, Mike. I just had to document what I saw. Never saw me be violent, never. I saw scream at Sarah when she was 8 months pregnant because dinner wasn't ready when got home from work. I saw throw a bottle against the kitchen wall because Tommy was crying and we're hungover. I saw pass out on the couch while we're supposed to be watching him." Each accusation hit like a physical because they were all true. Not the way she was spinning them, but true enough. "That doesn't give the right to steal my son. I'm not stealing him. I'm giving him a stable home with someone who actually wants to be his parent. I want to be his parent. Really. Because had a year to prove that, and instead chose to live in a studio apartment, drinking to and missing every important moment of his. Tommy started fussing, and Emma bounced him automatically whispering soothing words until he calmed down. The easy intimacy between them was like it in my chest. Sarah's on board with this. Sarah wants what's best for Tommy. She's young, she wants to finish school, maybe travel. She can't do that tied down with a toddler and an unstable ex-husband who might or might not show for visitation. So convinced her to give her own son. I convinced her that Tommy deserves better than what either of can provide right now. I have a stable job, a house with a yard, savings for his college education. I can give him everything, except his real parents. His real parents him away, she said, her voice finally showing some emotion. Him away when cheated on his mother. Him away when moved out. Him away every time chose over spending time with him. The accusation about cheating hit me like ice water. How did? Sarah told me. Finally. About affair, about why really left, she was protecting no. Even after everything put her through, she was still protecting reputation. But I needed to know the truth to build the case. I felt like I was drowning. This is insane. Can't just decide to take someone's child. I can when that someone has proven repeatedly that they're not capable of being a parent. She stood, adjusting Tommy in her arms. He'd fallen asleep against her shoulder, completely comfortable and secure. The hearing is next week. Sarah's testifying about abandonment and the affair. I'm testifying about drinking and erratic behavior. Medical records will speak to ongoing mental health issues. I don't have mental health issues. Well, after the court-ordered psychological evaluation. Funny how guilt and shame can manifest as depression, anxiety, anger management problems. All perfectly documented reasons to terminate parental rights. She walked toward the door, then turned back. Did this to Mike. Every single choice that led to this moment was yours. I'm just cleaning the mess. After she left, I called Chen in a panic. He'd already heard about the hearing. Can they do this? Can they actually take my son away? Given the documentation they've provided, the testimony they have lined, and current medical condition, yes. They probably can. What are my options? A long pause. It and lose publicly, dragging everyone through a messy court battle that will be in the newspapers. Or what? Or accept that maybe son is better off with someone who actually wants to raise him. The hearing was a formality. I attended via video call from my hospital bed, still too injured to travel. Sarah testified tearfully about my abandonment, my drinking, my failure to support her during pregnancy and after. Emma testified calmly about my erratic behavior, my neglect of Tommy, my unsuitability as a parent. I tried to defend, but what could I say? That I'd been eaten alive by Gover, an affair I'd never confessed. That I'd abandoned my family not because I didn't love them, but because I was too much of a coward to face what I'd done. That every drink, every missed visitation, every failure to be the man they deserved was because I knew I didn't deserve them. The judge terminated my parental rights that afternoon. Tommy would be adopted by his aunt, with Sarah relinquishing her rights to facilitate a stable, loving home environment. I was no longer a father. I was released from the hospital 3 weeks later. The house I'd shared with Sarah was sold. Emma had moved back to Portland with Tommy, legally now her son. Sarah was enrolled in graduate school, finally free to pursue the dream she'd put on hold for marriage and motherhood. Everyone got what they wanted except me. I live in a one-bedroom apartment now, work a job that barely covers rent, and spend my evenings wondering if Tommy will ever know he had a father who loved him but was too broken to show it. Emma sends a Christmas card every year with his picture. Last year he was 4, gap-toothed and grinning, holding a soccer trophy. He looks happy and healthy and nothing like me. Sometimes I wonder if I should have confessed the affair from the beginning, faced the consequences honestly instead of letting guilt destroy me slowly. Maybe Sarah and I could have worked through it. Maybe we could have saved our family. But I know the truth now. Sarah would have left me anyway. The affair was just the match. I was already soaked in gasoline from a lifetime of selfish choices and emotional cordies. I would have found another way to destroy everything good in my. Emma was right about one thing. Tommy deserved better than what I could give him. He deserved better than a father who was too weak to own his mistakes, too selfish to put his family first, too broken to love anyone more than he hated himself. I betrayed my wife, abandoned my son, and lost my family to my own sister because I thought I deserved more than what I had. And now I know exactly what I actually deserve, which is absolutely nothing at all.